There intelligent life in the universe? How about Earth? Farms, villages, towns and cities, our art and culture, stories and music, science and engineering, education, society. Everything we know and love today developed on a stable, resilient planet. It wasn't too hot, not too cold. Scientific evidence shows that global average temperatures changed no more than plus minus 1 degrees Celsius. But something stirred here 60 years ago and still grows exponentially. We now use an area the size of South America for our crops and the size of Africa for our livestock. We've produced enough concrete to cover the Earth and enough plastic to cling film it. International research shows the atmosphere, the oceans, and the lands are changing at alarming rates. Human-induced climate change is no longer a theory. Arctic sea ice is collapsing rapidly. Coral reefs are dying. Fish stocks that feed 3 billion people are at capacity. Choking clouds of pollution stretch across continents. Global average temperature is now 1.1 degrees Celsius. We are smashing through planetary boundaries. Climate, deforestation, fertilizer use, biodiversity. We are approaching irreversible tipping points in the Amazon, the Arctic, and Antarctica. We are causing the 6th mass extinction. So, is there intelligent life on Earth?
This report finds, unless there are immediate, rapid and large-scale reductions in greenhouse gas emissions, limiting warming to 1.5 degrees C or even 2 degrees C will be beyond reach.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Environmental Coffeehouse. I am absolutely honored and thrilled to have Dr. Peter Carter with me after all this time. It's just my pleasure, Peter. Peter is an expert reviewer with the IPCC, International Panel on Climate Change. He is a former medical doctor, but never forgets. And also the climate emergency. Well, wait, I'll show the picture if I can put it up of the. Whoops, not that. Sorry, guys. I did the wrong thing. I want to show you the picture of Peter's. There we go. Climate Emergency Forum. So, welcome, Peter. We have a full house.
Thanks, Sandy. Thank you.
Hi. So, why don't you just, everybody knows who you are, but why don't you just give us a little bit of a background, quick background of yourself and how you got involved in this, and then where we're going tonight.
Yeah, well, I found myself getting into a side career as a doctor, and I started researching and working with air pollution. And soon after I started actually doing that out of interest, and also toxins, various toxins, I got together with a few docs in Canada, and it's a long time ago now. We formed CAPE, the Canadian Association of Physicians for the Environment, which I'm glad to say is a very active, very worthwhile group that are really being very successful. And from air pollution, of course, it's a natural drift to what was then global warming. So a new association started on with global warming I mean, this must go back 20 years, I would imagine.
Okay.
And I never imagined that I would be following the research and working to communicate the facts that people have to know for so long. I mean, it's just crazy. Here I am at my age after all this time, and I'm still doing my best to communicate the truth, which isn't too well communicated still, to whoever I can communicate it to. So
Oh,
thank you for
there's a lot of us
inviting me on your
listening.
show.
A lot of us listening, Peter. I mean, and people are joining us as you were speaking, and the crowd is growing bigger. Well, tonight, guys, I just want to say hi to all of you out there and thank the moderators. Kim is here tonight, and she's our chief cook and bottle washer moderator. And who else is with us? Oh, Sam Curran is here with us. And let's see who else. Well, there's a lot of people. So I cannot read all the names tonight, but thank you for joining us. We have a presentation tonight. Peter wants to go in and we're going to have some interactive conversation. And as you all know, put a Q in front of any questions so that I can make sure that we can get some of your questions answered. And it's great to see you. So, Peter, how would you like to start? It's your show, and the first thing I want to do is give an applause to you for all your work. You've done phenomenal work, and we are very impressed. So, I'm a little starstruck, actually. All right. So, how do you want to start, Pete?
Well, your little clip, Sandy, was really great, very creative, and reminded me, in actual fact, of the most important thing I do have to communicate. And that is the fact that global emissions have to be in decline immediately. And that's a very, very strange situation because this statement, the global emissions have to be put into decline immediately and rapidly, was made by no other than Dr. Hosen Lee, who is the chair of the IPCC.
Yeah.
And he made this statement at the big opening plenary attended by everybody at the Glasgow 26th United Nations COP last year. Now, here's the incredible thing. Media didn't pick this statement up. Zero. There was zero reporting on this statement. You see, I call climate change the issue of all issues of all time. That makes the Lee statement the most important statement of all time. That we have to, whether we think it's feasible or not, but we have to get our emissions into decline immediately and fast. So that would be my main message, and I was reminded of that by your clip. So thank you.
And it's a huge, tall order that our psychopaths in charge don't seem to take too seriously. But so why don't we move over and get started with the show? And I will set us up so that we can start. All right, we can start and look at your presentation that you so lovingly put together for this show. And tell me how you would like to do this. We can start this and then we can also have some interaction. And again, everybody, remember, remember, Q for questions. All right, Peter, take it away.
So for over 5 years, I've been presenting at the big science conferences, and it's pretty basic and simple what I do. I follow climate change indicators from NASA and NOAA and UK Met Office and various other ones around the world. And every month I put the results on one of my websites. So there's about 20 climate change indicators. So there's emissions and there's atmospheric concentrations. Obviously, there's global warming, but there's also the oceans, there's ocean heat, ocean acidification, ocean deoxygenation. So I put it all together and I make sure they're up to date. and then I present them at the conferences. I've been very, very fortunate enough to be invited to present at. And the result is that when you look at all these together, I mean, it's a load of graphs, but they tell one story, and it's terrible. And they tell us that we are on a trend to biosphere collapse of our life-supporting biosphere. And the amazing thing is that nobody is doing one thing about it, it would appear. There are people like yourself who are doing very, very important work, communicating to audiences where they are and around the world. But the people that have the influence, people that really could do something, they're doing nothing. In actual fact, they're doing worse than nothing. Because as I got, yeah, fossil fuel emissions are increasing, right? So as long as I've been working on this, fossil fuel emissions have been increasing and increasing. Now, this is you mentioned something about psychopathic leadership. Yeah, I really would think so, because
Psychotic.
grinding,
Psychotic
they're
leaders.
grinding up future, they're grinding up life. And another quote, which actually came out of the sixth assessment from the IPCC, and this was the first time they ever made such a statement. They said, "We now have to secure a livable future." Now, the IPCC is renowned for being overly conservative. So when you hear that coming from these scientists, you know we're in desperate, desperate trouble, and we are. Um, uh, Life is collapsing all around us. When I'm very, very fortunate. I live in a south coastal area of British Columbia, and it was renowned, and probably still is, as one of the biodiversity richness of various forms of life on land and in the sea, in the world. But it isn't like that anymore. So in the space of 25 years, a whole region here, you know, in supposedly civilized, temperate northern hemisphere is collapsing. Now the other really important thing, which was communicated extremely well by the IPCC, and surely everybody knows about this now, is the extreme weather events. They're increasing at an accelerating rate, and the IPCC said they are due to human greenhouse gas emissions.
Of course.
So you'll be aware that for the past quarter century, we've been faced and trying to deal with climate change deniers. And that whole denial campaign, of course, was started by the fossil fuel corporations. Basically, it was started by the North American, United States-based oil corporations. And those big, powerful influences, they're still pushing more and more fossil fuel to the future, right? So they're forcing us in a way to leave a legacy for our children, which is absolutely terrible. I mean, horrible, horrible. So
That it is.
yeah, I guess I'm a bad news bearer in a way. But on the other
No.
hand, being a medical doctor, I know that human beings, that the what people might call the ordinary human beings, are wonderful, wonderful people. But we do have leaders which somehow we seem to choose the worst of ourselves to put them on the top of the heap where they get in power. So our civilization um, is destroying the planet, literally destroying the planet, and we can see this before our very eyes. It doesn't just have to be the Amazon, which, by the way, for the first quarter of this year, the deforestation of the Amazon was a record, never been as high. I watch the fires around the world. That's something else that I do with the NASA satellites, and the fires in the Amazon are the worst that there's ever been. So this wonderful jewel on land, we're allowing it somehow to be destroyed. You know, we've got what's he called, Bolsonaro, who's a president in Brazil, and he's pretty
Awful.
anti the environment, just pro money, right? So I guess by way of an explanation, I the best thing I can do is go back a couple of thousand years, and it amazes me that a small group of people, when there wasn't hardly any money going around at all, made this quote that everybody knows, that the love of money is the root of all evil. So that's what we've got today.
That it
That's
is.
experiencing. Yeah, yeah,
I
and
can't disagree there. I mean, it is. It is really, I mean, it is just, we see it every single day. If we look at any kind of social media, we see that that's where we are at. Root of all money, it's money. And it's, it's also belief systems. Belief systems
it
that are
is. Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
exactly belief systems that are uh, suited to, not going extinct.
Well, yes, we have brought about the sixth mass extinction. I mean, that's absolutely definite. The scientists have done the work, and that's definite. Actually, the sort of seminal paper on that, published out of Stanford, the title of the paper was accelerating um, uh, accelerating rate of decline of vertebrate due to vertebrate annihilation. The scientists use that term, the sixth mass extinction, that it's an annihilation, and it actually is. So I feel terribly bad. I mean, actually, my generation, we've done this. You see, we've
Yeah.
done this, and I used to be a successful, busy doctor, right? Made a big income and had the big cars and big house and all that kind of stuff, right? And so I do feel I have a responsibility here. Obviously, like everybody else, but maybe particularly because I was a general practitioner. I mean, I just love the little human beings. I mean, I just love children. I
Oh,
mean, they're wonderful, and it grieves me so much to have to look at what we're doing to them, the kind of planet that we are leaving to them. So yeah, we're in a desperate situation, and I find myself pretty desperate trying to get this out to people. So hopefully it will trickle down to the people that have the power. So I say it's our civilization. I made a wonderful friend with the UN climate conferences. Um, uh, he's called he died recently, in actual fact. He's called
oh.
Stuart. And Stuart was a wonderful, wonderful
Stuart,
man. He
we
came out of the business.
love Stuart.
Yeah, remember. And he made this as some people do. He made this huge shift of totally dedicating his life to the planet and climate. And I've had so many discussions with Stuart in which he's come at the end and said, Peter, but you've got to remember it's the economy, right? So what we call the economy, right, is definitely at the root cause of this. And it's an economy that doesn't value one thing about the natural world.
No, nothing.
So this economy that we use, the banking industry and the governments to make their decisions on their stupid cost-benefit analyses, that is actually what's doing this. And many, many books have been written about it. That you can't have an exponential growth economy powered by fossil fuels because it's going to consume stuff and it's going to ruin the planet.
Well,
So a lot of people are
going
told,
to
but
is.
again, our leaders don't listen.
Yeah, Jim
So
says endless growth. What could possibly go wrong? Yeah, thank you,
yes,
Jim.
that's right. Yeah, yeah,
Jim was very excited to hear that you were going to be our guest. So Jim does a
yeah. I saw
Jim
that.
does a yeah, he
I
does the
saw that
climate.
statement on.
He does. He does
And
every
that's
Friday.
a good statement. That's a good statement. Yeah.
Okay. Well, would you like me to move on in the
So one thing
slideshow?
that we have to do,
Whoop.
which we're not doing, is we have to include the costs, right? The costs
Yes.
of our economy, the costs on the natural world. So actually, a big report just came out recently. It's called the EBS. It's a United Nations report on biodiversity and ecosystems. And actually, they did a report pointing this out. Uh, and I mean, we've been aware of it for years and years and years, but pointing out that we do not value the natural world. And that's insane. That's fundamentally insane, right?
Of course it is.
We used to hear that we're sort of interdependent, and that was good. But in actual fact, the truth is that of all the species on the planet, we are the most dependent species on all the others. So
Most.
we need to become aware of that. We definitely need to think and define. We all love our children, right?
Yes.
But we really need to take some deep thinking, soul searching, and how do we love our children? Right? How do we do that? Because we're not doing it at the moment.
Well, evidently not enough. And I'm of that generation too. I'm in what's called Generation Jones, which is after the boomer and before the was it millennial, and we are just as culpable. I mean, you were an MD, I was an HR director in higher ed research. I was, not thinking of what I was doing when I was driving to work. I worked in a university that used oil to heat the buildings, and it was gigantic in Buffalo. So we never thought of it as much as we should have. And I was working with researchers and scientists who, should have known better, but we were working on, working on Great Lakes ecology because I'm on the other side of the Great Lakes. We touch the Great Lakes with Canada. You're all the way on the other side. You're on the West Coast, but so yeah, and a lot of us in this in this chat lived that way also. But we were also lied to forever. We were lied to, and we were told that we should use that. We were told that we should buy that gas stove. We were told all these things. So some of it is not our responsibility, and some of it is. But I would say,
that's well put, Sandy.
Yeah.
And we've really been socially engineered,
Absolutely.
The advertising industry. When I was in England growing up as a young boy, you just weren't aware of advertising. You really weren't aware of it. And the advertising industry has got so huge and so powerful, that really we are a socially engineered race now, basically. And again, that's something else that we've got to look into our heart and heads and try and get out of that. So what I said, on collapse, unfortunately, is true. The evidence is overwhelming, and it's incredible. It's hard to believe. Now, there's something else though, which is positive, which is hard to believe, and that's the thing that I've been myself and my friends been trying to communicate. When we make the 100% switch, which we must make for our survival, make the switch off fossil fuels completely and onto clean, renewable, which is everlasting energy, then we have the brightest future that humanity has ever imagined. That's the difference.
And you don't think it's too late?
Horrible. But, I've been asked whether it's too late at least for 10 years.
Yeah. And of course, here I did it right away. Boom, bang, right at the beginning.
It is way too for us to leave a planet like the one that I was fortunate enough to be born into. Right? So we're way too late for that. We are way too late to save the coral reef, which you and I and many other people been talking about for years.
Yes. Yes.
The biggest single organism that we could see from space, but also the biggest, most wonderful organism, which is an organism, the organisms that work in symbiosis, that work together, that have a mutual relationship in this environment, this wonderful reef situation that they build, you know. And the coral reef's been around here forever. It's too late. We have destroyed that wonderful Great Barrier Reef. And it's no good saying that, well, maybe we can genetically engineer the corals or something like that. No, 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 no. I mean, we've seen bleaching after bleaching after bleaching. But it's not too late for me. It's not too late for you, Sandy. And it's not too late for the people that are listening in. Definitely not too late. We can still educate ourselves, communicate. Communication is a big thing. That's the big, big, big thing. Because we seem to do this less and less and less, really. You know, we're in the information age, but we seem to have entered a situation where what is most important, we do not communicate.
Of course not.
And
We
what is
communicate craziness.
and trivial, we do communicate. So it's not too late for us to do the right thing and the best thing by our children and grandchildren. Not too late for that. No, no, no.
I always say
So
that
that's the reality.
even if we know what the end result might be, we're here now, and we should all have the obligation to do the best we can do, whatever that looks like, because it ain't over till
So
it's over.
I'm sort of fortunate in a way because I know there's something that I read that I was very, very impressed by some years ago. I read Gandhi's biography, and it was a wonderful, wonderful read. And the strongest idea that I came that book left with me was his explanation that when you're doing something, you should never think of the result.
Yes.
He said in this book, never think in terms of success or failure. Just continue on the same path, doing what you know is the best thing, is the right thing. So that's actually very helpful for me, you know, because I
Yeah, me
just follow
too.
research, I read all the papers, I do my little YouTube, right? I keep my websites up to date. And to be honest with you, you know, I don't, I don't spend a lot of time um, um, suffering about, you know, where I'm telling people we're going. The
So,
other
in other
thing is,
words, like, oh, sorry.
the other thing is about, is it too late? Um, we have no idea. We can't even imagine what we could achieve as a human race if we really united, right? We're fighting each other right now. Right? There's the most insane, evil, terrible thing that's happening in that country, you know, in Europe, and we are fighting over fossil fuels with fossil fuels.
Yeah.
Nothing
Oh my God.
could be worse. If we could just stop that, right? You know, recognize that we're all human beings, right? We're all one race. We're all the human race, right? And we're part of all the other life in this wonderful, wonderful, amazing planet. If we could just stop and realize that, and if we could then work together and cooperate as one unit of humanity, like the coral reef, there's no knowing what we could achieve. So that's the thing about, you know, is it too late?
Yeah, that's it's good because that always comes up. I mean, the questions, and we haven't even gotten into the slideshow yet, but there's always the question of when is it over? When is it too late? And we've already gotten some of that, and we'll go after your questions, guys. We'll try to have the time at the end, but Peter does have a nice presentation put together.
Because people ask me, Sandy, is that, you know, they say, well, what can I do? Well, I know the answer to that. You go vegan. That's what you do, right? We've known this for years and years and years. Um, So that is from the IPCC. That's from a report that they did in 2019. And what they put together there was they came up with a lot of different diets, look, and they analyzed all of these diets for the greenhouse gas climate influence. And look, vegan is well above, better than vegetarian. So I'm quite glad I made
Yeah.
the switch a few years ago
I'm a
from vegetarian to
vegetarian
vegan.
for the most part, but not a vegan. Not yet.
Well,
Not
you
yet.
can see that you can see that vegetarian is way better than the other
Yeah, we see it.
diets.
I hope everybody can see this. I'm trying to make it as big as possible, but it. If Peter, you want to
Well, the diagram, I should explain, the diagram is one of benefits comparing the different diets, right?
mhm.
So these blue blocks, the biggest one on the top is vegan. So that means that
Yes.
vegan is by far the most beneficial diet with respect to the climate, with respect to our emissions. Most of us that went vegetarian, we learned about, we learned about the beef and livestock industry, right?
Yeah.
Which is also a big driver of the destruction of the
The
Amazon,
beef is
right?
terrible.
So
Hmm.
everybody that switches off meat and seafood and fish, by the way, because the oceans are in a terrible, terrible way they're being fished out. Um, everybody that switches to vegetarian is making a big contribution to the future, big contribution to helping the climate. And everybody then that switches from veg, because I think, well, this is the way I did it, so I think it's a natural way to do it, is then switch to vegan, right? And the great thing is, when I started going vegan, you go to a restaurant, it was pretty poor. You carrot stick and a celery stick on your plate, and that was about it. There's your vegan option, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But now, um, we've had the sort of entrepreneurs, and they've, uh, you can get anything that we used to eat in a vegan form now. Oh my God! I went across the road to our grocery store, and I saw vegan tuna, right? In one of those tuna
Okay.
cans. Really, in one of those tuna cans. So we took it home and we opened the can and we had a
Vegan
salad
tuna.
with it. Darn good, darn good.
Really? What
So
is it made
yeah,
out of?
I
What's
know
vegan
no
tuna
choose
made out of?
vegan.
What's it made out of, Peter?
Oh, I don't know, but it'll probably be a soy-based product of some kind.
Okay.
And they use an oil in it, so they got a vegetable oil in it, and they're very clever, right? This takes a lot of doing. It's really, really hard, complicated to reproduce, things that look and taste like chicken, for example. But we have it
Yeah.
now. We have it. We have it all.
I do
So,
have a question. Can I ask you a quick question about that?
yeah,
The one thing
yeah.
that I grow, and there's many of our followers that are vegans and that grow food, because a big thing on this channel is growing food, gardening, and people will send me pictures, and we do a video, and I will show all the followers gardens and all. But one thing about the vegan movement is that if you can't grow your own food, it always worries me that some of these exotic foods are trucked in or come from other parts of the world. How do we get over that?
I totally agree with you that you've got to. I mean, and me and my friends have been doing this for years, right? When we go to the grocery
Mm-hmm.
store, we choose our fruits and vegetables, right? We look because we can see, that they have to tell us on the label.
Mm-hmm.
We look for where they come from, and we'll always buy the one that is nearest to where we live. At least we will do that, right? Because you're absolutely um, transportation is a huge contributor to greenhouse gas
Huge.
emissions, and food transportation is a huge part of that. So yeah, that's definitely something that we have to keep in mind and think about. Um, But there's another thing about veganism. I mean, there's two reasons to go vegans. Unquestionably, the most healthy diet. I mean, this has been proved over and over again.
And you
But
are a
the other,
medical doctor. Hmm.
yeah, well, hey, years and years ago, I would try and convince my patients, to go vegetarian, and they look at me blankly, and what was it?
Yeah, like,
Some kind of nut.
yeah.
But they would only go there. Things have changed now, but they would only go vegetarian, unfortunately, when they had their heart attack. And most of them then remember what I'd been saying, and they change and they get out exercising. Um, Another aspect of veganism, and that is it's ethical, it's moral, it's based on compassion, right? Because a big motivation for people that I know that went vegan is a compassion,
Compassion.
concern,
Yeah.
heartfelt concern for how our animal kin are being treated that we eat. And the cattle poundings and well, I don't want to go into it. I mean, it's horrible.
Oh, I
Chickens and all
know.
that.
I live in a farming
So,
community, Peter, and we recently the Amish people down the road built a huge barn. I mean, it's gigantic. And I found out that it is for veal cow, okay, which is a hideous, horrible way to live a life. And I'm going to say this, it sounds really disturbing, but when the German people used to drive by Auschwitz, they knew what was going on in there, but they talked themselves out of knowing what was going on in there. And they would drive by. And that is how I feel when I pass by that barn. I know what's going on in there. I feel like it's worse than the cows. It's like a cow holocaust,
of
and they're
course,
treated even
of
worse
course.
because they're not let out. So I understand how people can just put the blinders on and not not it's terrible. I don't, there's nothing I can do about it. These people are earning their living.
So you have to keep on doing what you're doing, Sandy. You have to keep on knocking on people's heads and knocking on people's hearts, and reminding them over and over and over. Um, that's what gets people to
Yeah.
change. Is being persistent with the truth. So that's what I try and do. I mean, I just keep trying to tell a lot of the truth of the science. It is the same, and I keep on trying to do it. I even do Facebook and Twitter now. Oh my God, I never start doing that, so I do that as well. And
It's tough.
the other thing that I take some sort of relief from is I made a trip to India with my wife, who was doing a volunteer work in India years ago, and of course they've got all the different religions in India, and I came across what we call Jainism, which they call Jainism, right? I was very interested in this, and because they have a himsa, which was Andy thing, it was in the big movie, and ahimsa is non-violence. And then I went
Absolutely.
into it and researched, well, how long ago did these people get together and decide that the right way to live and have a whole civilization is based just completely on non-violence? Well, they're probably the oldest organized religion in the world.
Wow.
So 3,000 years, right? A group of people in India got together, and by the way, they were very successful for a long, long time, and they built a whole ethical civilization on avoiding unnecessary violence. When you think about what's
Oh,
going
we
on in
lost
Europe
that.
today,
Yeah.
we sure need to do that. So make peace. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I was a long time ago when I was a young doctor. I was in the nuclear disarmament movement, of course, because the doctors were in the vanguard of that at the time, and
I remember.
we definitely did have some successful. We Reagan and Gorbachev got together, and they actually made a treaty to reduce the nuclear armaments. I think at the time there was something uh, 50, 60,000 nuclear weapons around that time.
Remember
But
that?
we didn't do the complete job because we've still got some left, and we still are now
Some.
at the risk of again of another insane war. It's all crazy, Sandy. Me and my friends sometimes say, we live in the asylum. It's completely insane, totally crazy. Wake
The
up,
asylum.
right?
Yeah, I agree with you. We live in the asylum, but we just try to make it manageable.
Yeah, yeah. All we need is more people just spending more time saying the same thing and question. We can turn the whole thing around. But we do have to be aware. We do have to be aware that we are fighting powerful, malevolent forces, obviously, in the fossil fuel industry, because they're still deceiving us. The fossil fuel industry is still to deceit, and at the same time, um, uh, like I said, we're on an all-time high with fossil fuel emissions in last year, all-time high, and that year was the fastest, biggest year of fossil fuel emissions increase, and that was what was called the rebound, right? So we had COVID, and the economy went into a sharp decline, and this is a terrible, terrible story that I'm going to tell you. This is
Okay,
the
we're
most
ready.
evil thing that that's ever happened in my lifetime. So when those emissions went down, right, and
Hmm.
everybody realized, well, we're going to have an economic recovery. Everybody, World Bank, OECD, International Energy Agency, that I reread actually yesterday, everybody told the governments, this is your big chance. You're going to invest a lot of money. Put it into clean renewable energy. Do not put it into more fossil fuel energy. What did they do? Believe it. They put substantially more money into the fossil fuel industry than the clean energy industry. And those are our leaders. So we are in a fight. No question. We're in a fight for our lives. We're in a fight for the future. And we really, it's a good fight. I'm here in my mid 70s. I'm still managing to be in the fight. It is a good fight. It's worth
Mid
doing.
70s. Well, you look pretty damn
When you
good
get
there,
into it,
mid
you
70s.
know this. Yeah, it feels good when you're into it. But the most malevolent force of all is the force that tends to stay under the radar, and that, of course, is the big multinational global investment banking industry. Mm.
Are we ready to
Because they have
move?
pouring money into the fossil
Yep,
fuel industry.
they have. They have.
So
Well, I'm
that
going to move up.
so we're gonna. This is some very good science that I'm showing.
Okay.
The scientists make some tremendous progress, and this is an example. This is called the Global Warming Index. It was introduced about 5 years ago from scientists at the University of Oxford. And what they managed to do, I mean, this is quite amazing. They managed to remove all the extraneous influences on the global temperature
Okay.
and leave a record of global temperature caused by our emissions alone. And that's their latest one. And you can see that the global temperature, the global warming index is still accelerating. Well, it has to be
Yeah.
because the fossil fuel industry and our own governments are pushing more and more and more fossil fuel extraction and more burning of fossil fuels. So, I try and encourage young people when I go to colleges, university. I try and encourage them, look, use the science as your weapon in this fight for your survival. Use the science. Take the best, and that's an example of the best.
I see it. the warming relative to 1850 to 1900, and this index in the orange line shows the estimated contribution from human induced global warming caused by the burning of fossil fuels or other forms of pollution. Not stopping.
And of course, everybody knows. I mean, for heaven's sake, everybody knows that climate change is primarily caused by fossil fuels. But we also have the terrible, horrid effect of ocean acidification caused by fossil fuel burning alone. And that is accelerating. Ocean acidification is accelerating. And that alone, if we allow, these powers, world powers, to continue polluting the atmosphere with greenhouse gases, with CO2, ocean acidification just by itself is a catastrophic event if we allow it to continue. Again, our economy, of course, not only allows it, our economy encourages it, right? Tells
Yes.
people to, number one, go vegan. Number two, just got to get rid of this, Sandy.
Okay, moving up to the next one.
Number one, go vegan. Number two,
Go
whether
vegan.
wealthy or not wealthy you are, get your money out of the fossil fuel industry where it's bound to be, and in renewable industry. And I can tell you from experience, you will make good money. So
Well,
that's
if
a
you
big,
have to,
big thing.
if you have anything to invest, which is happening less and less and less for the Western societies, and of course the other countries around the world, and you've traveled, so you've seen a lot different type standard of living than the people like me and you are used to, grew up with, and I'm not so sure we are absolutely the best standard of living. I don't think so.
We are, but of course, we're also experiencing pretty terrible extreme weather events, right? Which are already
Yep.
affecting. They're affecting not only the food production, the wheat production of Pakistan and India, but they're already affecting the production of maize and wheat in the United States, for example. So we're still producing food, but the scientists again have been very clever, and they've been determined that for 10 or 15 years, there's been a fallback on our food production in North America and Europe by the effects of change and by these extreme events hitting over and over and over again. So our food security is on the line right now.
I do have a question here. Jordan brings up Jordan Perry is I don't know if you've seen him on, but he and his wife Karen have a post collapse channel, and their whole movement is post collapse, which is supportive of people that need that support to understand that we are going there. And he made the comment, compassionate capitalism. Is there any such thing as compassionate capitalism? And he brings up like purposeful war. Is it semantics, Peter? The compassionate capitalism. Is there?
I've wrestled with this many years, and I think probably because of this horrible war, I came to realize the problem is actually not specifically capitalism; it's fossil fuel capitalism. That's the problem. The capitalist cancerous monster really got going when fossil fuel energy came. So
Yeah.
that's sort of the way I look at it now. But I mean, we can't have a complete revolution. It's too late for that anyway. So we can include a valuation, right? The work has all been done. We can stop the externalities,
Yeah.
as the economists call it. If we include the externalities, which are true costs, for example, fossil fuel combustion on our health. Fossil fuel combustion is now killing over 10 million people a year, every year. And this is a paper that came out 2 years ago, specifically fossil fuel air pollution, not general air pollution, fossil fuel air pollution. 10 million people every year. If this isn't evil, it's evil. It's evil. Yeah. And we include those costs. We've got the costing, we've got the valuation, and then that will certainly transform what we call capitalism. But we got to
Well,
work hard
yeah,
because a
because
lot of people haven't.
JA says Peter's wrong. Capitalism is a problem. Even if we didn't have fossil fuel, capitalism would destroy the earth in other ways. Do you think you're too tunnel vision on this, Peter? And I have a tough crowd out there.
No, you may be totally right. A Canadian wrote a book, well, 8 years ago. Uh, I read it. It's a great book called "The Cancerous Stage of Capitalism," and I totally followed the information and the and the conclusion in that book. Capitalism has a horrible history. It really got into overdrive of destroying the whole planet when it became fueled by fossil fuels. So we can reform capitalism, and we have to. We have to. Um, this doesn't have to take a long time. I mean, my God, it's just accounting after all, right?
Well, one could
I
say.
also definitely sympathize with the people, and I've read their books and looked at their videos. I'm very impressed by them. Of the sort of compassionate stage of the situation that we're in, and I'm glad that we're doing that because, of course, we're now becoming aware of this terrible situation where our young people, right,
Hmm.
are are hit, they're abused, they're offended, by our economics, and because they have what's called now climate grief, right, climate
Yes.
anxiety. We should never ever have allowed this to happen. So I think those people are doing great work too. But yeah, fight capitalism. Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
All right. Would you like us to move on to the next?
Somebody asked about the degrowth
The
economy.
D. Okay, yeah, that was astrologer climate witness. Hello, my friend. She is
So yeah,
not far from me.
that was a very good research paper actually published. I think it was 3 years ago. It was the first time that I was aware that the climate scientists had looked at degrowth and the difference this could make to greenhouse gas emissions, and it was huge. Let me tell you, the one flaw in climate science and the IPCC reports is that all the scenarios assume economic growth, assume capitalist-based economic
All
growth.
of
That's
them.
bad. That's really bad. So
Mm.
yeah, those people know the degrowth has been around for a long time, and it's very, very important. I mean, obviously, we cannot continue to consume as we are.
No,
You know,
we
we
can't.
sort of feel we're lucky ones, but um, uh, we are consuming the planet. We're consuming the future now. We've been consuming the planet for a long time. There's a very good video I watched on YouTube recently by Jonathan Porritt, and
Oh,
it was a video on consumerism, and, and it was well worth watching. And he was saying, yeah, capitalism is a huge problem, but really the main problem is consumerism. It's almost like a religion, right? That you've got
yes.
to be a part of this tribe, right? That believes in consume, consume, consume.
Well, I lived into that in that. I mean, I've never hidden the fact that I was a compulsive consumer in certain years of my life, thinking that's I needed this or I needed that, I still fall into it. And I tell everybody that I'm honest about myself and my motivations. I fight it, because I do this. I like a good computer. I like the things that I need to make this channel happen. I need to get certain things for my garden, although I try much more not to anymore. But I think we all in our chat, all 73 people here understand this. It is a fight. It is a fight. Absolutely. All right, what do you say we move on and go to it's hot, baby. Hot, hot, hot. Boy, I know this one is one of your
we
fortes.
we are seeing now, year after year, unprecedented heat waves right across the northern hemisphere. And this is the recent one, the one that's ongoing at the moment, right? And there was another one just a couple of weeks ago. And so we now have the situation. I've watched this grow year after year because these are the indicators I follow. So look at that. That's a heat wave that takes in the whole of the United States practically. Unprecedented. That sort of thing has never happened before. And the pattern is the same. It has a tongue that goes right up the middle of Canada. And today, that heat wave has gone practically up to the Arctic in Canada. And it's also baking Alaska again. The other thing that's happening because of the heat waves reaching up to the Arctic is that the boreal forest is burning. Boreal forest is the greatest forest on the planet. It's a bigger forest than the Amazon that goes right around the planet, circumpolar forest. And it holds more carbon than any other forest or anything else. And that is now burning. So our economy is burning now.
Yeah. And Jim Massa.
Oh, sorry. Heat wave in Europe again. Unprecedented heat wave in Europe. Sorry.
Oh, I don't know if you have watched Jim Massa. Have you watched Jim Massa's video? He lives in Alaska and he's part of our team. And he was talking today about the fires in Alaska today. And it is hot.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. I see it on the NASA firm's fire map. I've never seen as many fires in Alaska as are burning now. Our economy is burning up our planet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow, we're going to have a lot of questions here.
Woo! We've got spinning point burning again. We've got this repeat heat wave taking in all of Europe now. And it's not just heat, it's drought. Rivers in Italy are drying up.
Oh, yeah.
Italy has declared a state of emergency because of water availability.
Yeah, that was Jennifer, my show
Sunday
night.
A lot of people have realized for a long time climate change is an issue of global survival. It's painfully obvious now.
Bingo.
The issue for global survival.
Yes, it is. And there's unfortunately a little too much of that magical thinking that somehow it's just going to all go away.
Yeah.
And it's
we have great range, we can rationalize pretty well anything with them, right, Sandy?
Right.
Dangerous
and we're all good at it. We're good at that.
Yeah. Oh, China. China in the northern hemisphere. Practically most of China is in a heat wave right now. It's been in a heat wave for at least a couple of weeks. So we have these heat waves hitting. They come early. They've never come as early as they come this year. Never, ever. These heat waves occurred in spring, right? And they're lasting longer. We've never had waves that have lasted as long. Now, the IPCC, the scientists warned us about this years ago. We've got the sixth assessment, of course, which is they have their wrap-up final report later this year. But the fifth assessment in 2014 said this. It said that heat waves will become more frequent, more intense, last longer, and cover wider area. So we've been warned about this, right? But we're still allowing, I suppose. I guess we're still allowing governments. Our governments are still subsidizing the fossil fuel
Of
industry.
course they are. Of
This
course they are.
today, I mean, how dare they do that, right? And of course, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund of all organizations, have been very, very useful in exposing the terrible evil crime of subsidizing the fossil fuel industry, taking our money, our tax money, taking that money, and making it burn up the planet and burn up the future. How, like Greta said, remember when she said that? Yeah, you did these things.
Say that again.
The IMF explained that the subsidies aren't just billions, or tens of billions, they're trillions, right? So they've done 2 reports now, the International Monetary Fund. The first one found that the subsidies, when they included, as they properly did the externality, $5.2 trillion a year. And they repeated it a couple of years ago, and it was just a bit more. Over $5 trillion, our governments are giving our money to the killing fossil fuel industry. Unbelievable.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. Human brings up, and this is very often something, I have a couple. I'm going to start with humans, and then there's 2. Lack of aerosol in the air raises the temperature 1C. And then Sam had, let me find it because it was here somewhere. Sam Carana. Okay, here's another one. Is the global, which is equal land plus ocean surface temperature, the best metric?
Yeah.
Since most people live on land.
Global warming. The global.
Let me put that back up there. Can you see it?
People are supposed to understand that. It's ridiculous. So no, Sam's exactly. It's the one metric that's being used. It's the worst of all the possible metrics, and it's not the metric, by the way, which is required by the 1992 United Nations Climate Change Convention. Global warming was not the metric in this convention. It was quite properly put the atmospheric greenhouse gas concentrations. So Sam will be well aware of it. And I get atmospheric greenhouse gas concentrations. They're lumped together, and they call them the CO2 equivalent. They come out every year. And the scientists are using that, not global warming, because global warming does not take into account all the heat that's going into the oceans, right? It doesn't take that into account. It doesn't take into account the future commitment of more warming and more climate change. So there is a fundamental flaw in the science that Sam's brought up. On the 1 degree aerosol effect, I mean, that's pretty scary, because we have to stop the fossil fuel industry. We have to close down the fossil fuel industry to be able to survive. And that means that they will stop the air pollution. And as the questioner will be very aware of, the acid aerosols are cooling. They're cooling. 0.8 is the highest amount that the IPCC has of the aerosol effect. Remember, in the best situation, we'll be closing down the fossil fuel industry slowly. It'll have to be done fast, but in reality, it'll be slower. So I mean, global dimming isn't going to happen all of a sudden. But it is another motivation to decline today, like Dr. Lee, the IPCC chair, said. Because the longer we delay it, I mean, not only the more the planet have we destroyed, but we build up more of the aerosol cooling problem.
So You actually do, you say it's a problem, and it's hard for a lot of scientists to say that. You know, that's okay. Well, let's,
Yeah, that's not language.
yeah,
That's the language they like to use.
it is though. But I'm glad for your frankness. All right, so here we go with the U.S. Drought Monitor, which I have been in, and my area is this little. I don't know if you could see. No, in Western New York. And we got some rain today, but this is
Yeah, look at that.
near and dear to my heart because last year it was complete torrential rains and my basement was swimming. This year we can't even get it to rain, and when we get a little squeak of rain, I'm outside screaming and doing rain dances today. So tell us about this.
Well, again, the scientists have done a good job warning us about this. The first study actually came out of the Oak Ridge lab and the Lavon Authority lab, which are government labs, and they had some dramatic computer images in which they projected that if we didn't stop emitting greenhouse gases very fast, that the southwestern United States would go into a permanent state of drought, and that drought would then spread up rather like the heat waves are spreading up. So we were warned about this, and I and other people did my best to put us on the websites, and actually I wasn't doing the Twitter and Facebook thing at those days. I hadn't reached out. And the other thing is that the southwest of the United States, the science published today, says is either entering or it looks like it's in a mega. So this is a permanent state of drought, which will last for at least a
Permanent.
decade.
What about Canada, where you live?
Canada, Canada is very interesting, Sandy. Canada has supposedly been one of the least vulnerable countries in the world as regards climate change, but it's not turning out like that because if we put this drought map further up, there is one North American drought map right where our grain belt is. Saskatchewan, for example, has been in a drought for a long, long time. The same thing applies to the heat waves as well. As you know, in British Columbia, we've had crazy, crazy heat waves last year.
Yeah.
So even Canada is already being hit by global climate change driven drought and heat waves. And a drought and heat waves, that combination, I mean, what could be worse? So look at and then the map was the same a year ago. I mean, over about a quarter of all the United States, continental United States, is not only in drought, but 20% of it is in severe drought.
Yeah, severe.
Doesn't look good.
Yep. We're losing
Yeah,
the Great Salt Lake. We're losing Lake Mead. Again, Jennifer and I did our show on water and water wars on Sunday night, and it was quite eye opening. Although our eyes are wide open anyway. Yeah.
um, there's a good reason why the indigenous people we're made very aware in Canada that to the indigenous people that we call the First Nations now, water water is sacred. We European Americans we have to get this notion right.
Water is life.
Drought, of course. Um, Australia has been having terrible droughts as well as unbelievable floods, right?
Yes, we have
In
Henry Holt with us tonight in the audience. Henry is Australian, and Henry's a good friend of the channel, and he went through horrible hardships when the fires happened in Australia. So I wanted to say hi to
yeah,
Henry, by the way.
those fires are unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
Just
Hi,
horrible,
Henry.
horrible.
Good night, Lisa. Okay. I'm just little housekeeping. Being live, we can do that, Peter.
So the floods as well. So Queensland has had
Yeah.
unprecedented floods. It's had floods all year, in fact. Imagine that. Severe floods all year. China, that's now in a heat wave, every year they've had major floods in which they've had to evacuate thousands and thousands of people. We are being hit hard by our own greenhouse gas emissions.
Yep, we sure have. So let's move on a little. Let's go to this next one. You have the NOAA weather prediction for July 2022. All right.
Yeah,
Take it away, Pete.
It's turned out to be different and worse. But again, I wanted to give an example that we've not only been warned for years about what's going to be happening, we're being warned month by month. So it turned out to be worse, as we are now well aware.
So, all right.
You know,
I see this. Yes.
Global surface temperature increase, global surface warming,
Mm-hmm.
right? Heat waves, right? Obvious. Droughts, really obvious. Forest fires, obvious. How smart are we?
How smart are we? I don't have enough time for that one. How smart are we? Oh my gosh,
You don't
Peter.
answer.
No, there's no answer. There is no answer. Oh, all right. Let's see. Where are we going next? Oh, this is always a good one.
There you
Let's
go.
talk about the heat dome.
So that's the heat dome. Right.
Yeah.
So what's happening is the thing that the scientists have been very busy trying to figure out what's been going on here, because we got these heat domes that are vast areas of heat that stays, and that's a new thing. They stay, they hang in there, and the scientists have figured out that a large part of it is what we're doing to the Arctic.
Mm-hmm.
The Arctic is being heated up by our greenhouse gas emissions, by the fossil fuel industry. The Arctic is being heated up 4 times the global average now. Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. The sea ice is melting away, as everybody knows, and that makes a huge difference, right? Because the Arctic is millions and millions of square miles, right, above the northern hemisphere. What Peter Wadhams calls the icy cap of the northern hemisphere.
Yes.
So it's changed the jet stream. A paper came out just a day before yesterday that sort of pinpointed another aspect of the Arctic changing the weather of the northern hemisphere, right? And they've been talking about double jet streams, which is my friend Paul Beckwith understands all.
Yeah. Paul's a friend of our channel for sure. Paul comes on and I bring him on for weird stuff. We did a whole show on Ernest Shackleton, actually. It was great. It was great having Paul for that. Ernest Shackleton. Ah,
Oh yeah. So
yeah.
losing the sea, um, the best person that's warned us about this, of course, is the best person that's warned us about everything. That's James Hansen. And I started my Climate Emergency Institute back in 2008 because it was when James Hansen said that we're in a climate emergency. The Arctic sea ice is going to be disappearing fast. So
It
we
is.
removed that cooling sea ice and also the northern hemisphere snow. It's having a massive effect on the northern hemisphere. We used to live in the temperate northern hemisphere, right? One of the best places in the world to live, particularly for agriculture. That's being changed before our very eyes.
Right through our lifetimes. Faster and, like they like to say, faster than previously expected. And it's true. Mm-hmm.
Tell your governments over and over and over that keeping subsidizing fossil fuels is a criminal act, an unprecedented criminal act. We need a great global campaign. I don't know why we haven't got one. We need a great global campaign focused at least on one thing, forcing our own governments to stop subsidizing the fossil fuels. You know,
We've
our
talked about it.
governments are
We've
keeping the
tried.
fossil fuel alive, right? They're keeping the
Hmm.
fossil fuel industry alive. The renewable energy industry has been so successful, and the new technology is so amazing that they are cost competitive, right? So we have some regions of the world that put in solar voltaic, huge solar voltaic areas, and wind turbines, and these mega batteries, because they're cheaper than building a new coal plant. So
Hmm.
imagine our own governments that are subsidizing the fossil fuel industry, the amount of trillions of dollars a year. Some people think there's nothing we can do. Well, yeah, there is. Our governments can start subsidizing the fossil fuel industries. And then one thing about the capitalist market, it's incredibly sensitive and powerful. And it would
Yeah.
shift all that damn money, bad money, out of fossil fuel industry and
But it
where it
takes
belongs
political will.
in the
Takes
clean energy industry.
political will. And we do not have the political will
We
in any
have to
country
drive the
right now.
political will, right?
No.
We have to
All
drive
right.
it.
Here's a question. Uh, I'm looking. Okay. It was interesting. Do you think that a strict focus on global warming risks obscuring necessary awareness of the broader problem of ecological overshoot, of which climate change is merely one symptom? And that's an excellent question.
I totally agree. And it's not actually climate change, it's climate system change. And the climate system actually takes in all of the other systems on the planet, right? And it's not even change. As John Holden was saying, 2016 in his lectures,
Hmm.
global warming and climate change are not helpful terms. He said we should be using different terms.
Right.
For example, climate. But we've got climate system disruption, and that's the entire biosphere. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And as we've said before in answering Sam's question, global warming is not a good metric to begin with. And of course, it's a problem with our science,
Hmm.
right? We have reductionist science. Aspects get siloed, and they don't communicate with one another. So yeah, it's the whole ecology, of course. But that question is very good and very right. It's the global biosphere, which is all the ecosystems together. You can't adapt ecosystems, and you can't mend ecosystems, and you can't reverse ecosystems. You can slow it down. You can help it.
Slow it down. Right. All right. Let's move to this
Now,
next one.
well, this is interesting because I had been looking for many years for really what I needed, which is I needed the hottest time of the year, not the global warming. What I needed to find out was when is the summer heat at its maximum. And oh
Mm-hmm.
my gosh, in 2015, NASA put out what they call the NASA Next, right? So I took these and I took them to some of the conferences. And so this one would have been done 2015 that I did. And what I figured out was 1.5 degrees C was going to be in 2030. And that's been confirmed now by the sixth assessment of the IPCC. Do not believe the nonsense. Again, James Hansen at least is on the right side. Do not believe the nonsense that we can still limit heating to 1.5 degrees C. We're going to be there in 10 years or less. And 1.5 degrees C, as the 2018 1.5 degrees C IPCC report showed very, very clearly, is disastrous. 1.5 is a disastrous planet. This is what we're leaving for our children in
For our
future
kid. Yep.
generations. So we've got to
And
nail our banks and nail our fossil. And yeah, that's the summertime. Look at California and the southwest of the United States, for heaven's sake, as hot as it could possibly get on that scale.
mm-hmm. where it used
Florida.
to not. All
Where
right,
you
well,
live.
that moves me into a question here. Isn't it ironic that we are on the verge of the Fermi paradox, finally able to analyze interstellar planet atmospheres for life, just as we annihilate our own species? And thank you, Renee. I thought that fit.
So one of my friends told me today, and I'm not going to check up on it, but one of my friends told me today that the scientists that are interested in this kind of thing has found a galaxy where they say there must be life. Oh, thank you very much. Right?
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
And then we have our wealthiest, clever people, but they got to be idiotic at the same time. Like
Of course they are.
Elon Musk and Branson, and they're saying that we
Oh,
have
in
to start
fact,
over again in Mars,
I think
right?
we have
Because
a
the Earth
an
is
Elon.
a planet. That's what they're saying. That's insane. Insane.
Can Peter explain that Elon Musk is crap? Rod needs to know. Okay, that's no, that's an between Matt and Rod. But I just thought you'd get a little kick
The, the,
because we have a very
the
close
electric
chat.
the electric car is not the answer to climate change.
Oh,
Al Gore had it right when he Earth in the Balance, which I think was 2009, when he said that one of the things we must do is we have to get out of the internal combustion engine and the individual private car completely.
yeah,
So what's happening
actually,
with Elon Musk? And he's a brilliant man, obviously, and he planned, he introduced the Roadster first, I remember, and so he's producing, God knows how many electric cars now. But what's happening, you see, is that is maintaining the car industry.
hmm
So if you plot the increase in electric cars, it's very good. They're increasing fast. But oh my God, the other fossil fuel CO2 spewing cars, they're increasing, their production is increasing even faster. So Elon's intention may have been good, but that we always hear that one of the solutions is electric cars. No, 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 no. One of the solutions is to move people in an efficient and non-polluting manner.
or people just
That ain't
stay the
driving.
hell where you are.
Oh yes, yes,
Oh
yes.
yes.
I got to tell you a story there, Sandy.
Okay,
So,
give us the story.
20 odd years ago, there was an elderly lady who was the Green Lady of England, and she had tea parties. She raised all kinds of money for the Amazon and the coral reef. And she was interviewed, and the interviewer said at the end, "Well, what is the number one thing that people should do for the planet?" And she said, "Stay home."
Stay home. Stay home. I do it a lot. Well, I mean, we invented, humans started flying, and that was it. When now we have to go everywhere, and you see on the news, I always have this little tee hee when you see on the news that people are getting, their planes are getting canceled, and they're all inconvenienced because everybody has to travel, and that's what makes the world go around. And I only travel when somebody dies, unfortunately, or people visit me when they have somewhere else to go on the way. But
Well,
right,
that was actually what George Monbiot said in his book that came out many years ago, Heat. He said, "Do not travel in an airplane unless you're doing it for your heart." So yeah,
yeah, or something
George Monbiot
happens.
is absolutely awesome, by the way. I mean,
Yeah, he is.
we have some real heroes. We need more.
We
We have some
have
real
some
heroes.
heroes. You're a hero. You're
Look
a
at this.
hero.
This is what is destroying our planet. This is what's destroying our. This is what's eradicating life on Earth, right?
Right here.
These damn greenhouse gas emissions. So this was from the sixth assessment of the IPCC, and they dropped down, when there was COVID, and as I say, the damn governments jacked them right back up again, and so our greenhouse gas, CO2, and the other emissions are increasing as fast as they've ever increased. That is what I call a global suicide scenario. It is. It is a global suicide scenario. Look at the
Unreal.
science is about it. So that's bad.
Okay.
Subsidies.
Well,
Subsidies driving this, right? Right.
yeah. Yep.
And natural
Oh,
gas,
yeah.
natural gas is not a bridge, right? Europe is now getting natural gas because it's problems with the refrigeration. Natural gas, again, our scientists have done the research, and they found, in fact, burning natural gas is just as bad as burning coal because natural gas is mainly methane, and when you've got God knows how many thousands and millions of miles of pipeline, you get what you call fugitive emissions. So natural gas is as bad as coal.
Mm, 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 mm. All right, let's move down.
It's very,
And
very
you
scary.
you made some very nice slides for this, by the way. I want to thank you. I appreciate them. They're very nice. All
Now,
right.
this is what I was talking about. See, this is what we should be using as a metric, not global warming. This is all the greenhouse gases put together and plotted 1700. The science calls it CO2 equivalent. It's just all the greenhouse gases. Look how it's shooting up. Look how
Mm.
and it's speeding up. If you look at that closely, you'll see it speeding up again in the last 3 to 5 years.
Oh boy.
We're on a suicide scenario,
Somebody
and
just
it's a
said that
planet
too.
suicide scenario.
Love,
Stop it.
care,
You know,
keep.
we have to
Yeah.
reform capitalism. We have to get all the externalities. Um, we have to build ecosystems, and so we don't trash them because our crazy economics are not worth anything. We can do this, and it can be done very fast.
See, I'm really happy to hear that, you're very honest. You believe from your heart. And it's not hopium. It's real true belief that we can still possibly just do something without the onus of the outcome, of the longer outcome, just to try. Just to
Yeah,
try.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of opium. Uh,
No.
hope is not going to
Nobody
save the planet.
here is.
Hope is not going to save the future for our children, right?
No.
It's action that's going to do that. Mother Teresa had it right. She said there's only one love, and that's love in action.
Wow. Well,
What I've
here
been
we
doing.
are.
Okay? So this is what I've been presenting at the big conferences. The AGU is the biggest conference in the
Hmm.
world, and then there's AGU. I did have to admit, fly to Vienna a few years ago
I was just going to
to.
ask you that, but you did not go to the COP 26. You did not fly there. No, Paul
No,
did.
no, I went to Madrid, Sandy. And the only reason I went to Madrid was because of Stuart Scott, and I knew he was dying of cancer at that time, and I thought, he's
Yes,
such a hero that if I say
he
I go
was.
to Madrid, probably he'll be able to go. So that was the reason I went, and
And
it was
that was a
wonderful to be working.
beautiful thing. And that's why I said, if you
Yeah,
have to fly, I had to fly this year. My father passed away. There are things that, necessitate in this society because nobody lives close to anybody anymore. I mean, nobody's
yeah, I
close.
know.
Everybody's all over the place. And I wish it
So here
wasn't
you
like
see
that.
about here you see nearly 20 climate change indicators, right?
Wow.
They're all
Yeah.
getting worse. They're all getting worse faster. Now, it's no good substituting hope for what the science is telling you. You got to tell the truth.
Mm.
And one thing about science is it gives us a definite truth. So
Yeah, this is.
middle there, in the middle there, with the big red square next to it, I,
Mm-hmm.
I want to bring an attention to that. That is something that image has been around for many, many, many years, and it shows the global emissions had to be in decline by 2020 at the very latest, and they had to be in decline by 2020 for the 1.5 degree C limit and the 2 degree C limit. And what Dr. Lee said last in Glasgow was that for both of those limits, 2 degrees C and 1.5 degrees C, which we've now obviously gone past, global emissions have to be in decline immediately. And it's going to be the same every year. Every year, we have to put global emissions in decline immediately. And the science, at least 10 years. Those same graphs I've been following for at least 10 years. One above it, by the way, just above it, you can see a green and a gray square next to it. That's important too. That's something that's CO2 emissions, but it's cumulative CO2 emissions. CO2 lasts in the atmosphere for hundreds and hundreds of years. So as long as we're burning fossil fuels and emitting CO2, it will build up faster. And that's cumulative emissions, and you can see that that line is just going almost straight vertical. We had a
There's
paper
a
on
lot
that
here.
just 3 years ago, and cumulative emissions are on the worst case scenario. The very worst case that actually scientists never even imagined would happen. Cumulative CO2 on that scenario. That's because of burning fossil fuels, because of government subsidies, and because of the banks and the fossil fuel corporations.
Yeah, there's a lot there. There's a lot here. Busy,
They are
busy.
guilty. The science, they are guilty partners. They're destroying the planet. They're destroying the future. They need to be told that.
Oh, boy.
Yeah,
All right.
getting worse faster.
Now we'll move on to multiple rapidly deteriorating global climate change indicators.
I just want to put this in because this is done not by me. This is done by a much better climate expert and a much better presenter. This is done by Dr. Hawkins, and so you'll see that that it's a lot finer than my representation, but it says the same thing.
Okay.
Same thing.
All right.
Everything's getting worse.
Yeah. All right. There you go. It's getting worse. 4 million years, high CO2, and still rapidly increasing global atmospheric greenhouse gas concentrations, 2000 to June 220.
So one of our climate centers, excellent climate centers. I mean, we've got two of the best in the world in the United States. We've got NASA, the GISS, that Dr. Hansen was head of for many years. And we have the NOAA, the National Ocean and Atmospheric Administration. So the NOAA puts these out every couple of days. So I follow these. These are the three main greenhouse gases. CO2 is the main one, 60% of global heating, all of the ocean acidification. Next is methane, which has a very significant amount of heating. And then the last on the list, but still not insignificant, is nitrous oxide. So they're all accelerating, and they all are increasing over the past 3 years faster than ever. And NOAA told us that. And last year, I think it was in June, NOAA put excellent scientific articles, by the way. NOAA said that the CO2, atmospheric CO2 concentration, is now the highest in at least 4 million years.
My God.
That's insane, right?
It's frightening.
That's insane.
Frightening.
No, CO2 does. It has to. It's got no choice. It heats the planet. It acidifies the oceans. So that is terrible news. Terrible, right? And we've got to face it and we've got to hear it.
Here's a quick question. And nothing's an ignorant question, Reflect the Sun. Why is methane pp billions and methane pp millions? So where are we? Methane. Okay.
It's an excellent question, actually, because a lot more CO2 in the atmosphere
CO2 pp
than there is methane, right? And that's why CO2 is so important as regards heating. So CO2 is in parts per million of air, and methane is a lot scarcer. So it's measured in parts per billion, right?
Okay.
However, methane is still now, because of the level that it's reached, a major global heater. Methane has increased 2.6 times 2.6 times since industrialization. And the scientists are very properly very, very worried about this, because look at how methane is increasing, ticked up
See
just
Yeah.
in the past couple of years. And I'm afraid the worst news ever. That's what many of us have feared for decades. The scientists are telling us this is feedback. We now have methane feedback.
Yeah, and we
That's
talk
a
about methane a lot.
all by itself, and
Here's a
it's coming from warming wetlands. By the way, there's not
that's
enough methane coming out of permafrost yet, but there's a lot coming out of wetlands.
and that is my friend here who is also she's a soil sample scientist is the nitrous oxide increase due to increased intensive ag in South America.
Well, yeah, the the main human source of nitrous oxide is chemical agriculture, the use and the overuse certainly of nitrogen fertilizer, because that leaches out and it emits as nitrous oxide.
All right, let's see. Questions.
And
Oh
by the
boy.
way,
Yes, yes,
I mean, you ask about South America,
yes.
um, uh,
Well, Jackie did.
and I
Yeah.
mentioned the methane. There are wetlands in the Amazon, and they're pouring out methane, literally pouring out methane.
You know, a lot of people don't talk about that. That's an area I guess we'll have to look into. The Amazon pouring out methane. Very interesting.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm very frustrated about that, because wetlands are massive, right? And we know that they normally emit some methane, right? So it was sort of intuitive that if you heat them up, they're going to emit more methane, and that's what they've been doing. Canada has massive wetlands north of Canada. They go on forever, and they're rich in peat, and peat is black because it's high in carbon.
Yes. The peat. It's true. I know about that.
There's
IMF. Here we
the
go.
there's the International Monetary Fund. So this was their repeat review estimate in 2020, in which the subsidies had gone up even further to $5.9 trillion a year. And, and the IMF predicted that they would continue to increase until 2025. And that's just what they're doing.
That's just what they're
The
doing.
fossil fuel subsidies, the worst criminal evil ever, are being increased at the moment. Increased.
Peter, I think I told you this earlier that we have the Environmental Coffeehouse flush of the day. I think that the fuel subsidies tonight are going to get our flush of the day. What do you think, everybody? Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's get rid of those fossil fuel subsidies. Let's flush them
which would be very
away.
good. And I don't think people are well enough aware of this. Probably the media doesn't like telling us,
Of
by the way.
course not. No, 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 no. Ah, my goodness. Well, Jackie, she says the question is why are the wetlands emitting more? Wetlands are wetter, perhaps because more runs off rather than the vast amount of moisture that trees use. Oh, what a show you two
Yeah,
would have together.
in the black peat soil, of course, there are microorganisms, right? And when you warm up the peat, um, uh, the microorganisms like that. And what they do is they're more active, and we get more methane being emitted. So the
Yeah.
wetlands are very important, yes, because they're wet. If they were dry, and then they emit CO2.
All right. Dee Dee has been asking. This has been her third time, so I really want to ask you this for Dee Dee. How do you feel about the situation with the Dutch farmer protests? Do you think the government should pay them to stop breeding livestock? And your thoughts on fertilizer for plants?
Well, yeah. Um, uh, um, the main source of our methane, the biggest source of our methane currently, being the meat livestock industry, it's got to. Now, when I say stop, everything has to be converted, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't solve the climate emergency by doing less or doing better, right? It has to be all. So the diet of people and the industry that produces the food has to be switched totally off meat and livestock, wholly onto plant-based only. So, yeah, I think the Dutch farmers are doing a good thing. It's a tough thing for the farmers, I know, but we do have to survive. Oh, I don't know about the fertilizer. I guess is I don't know about fertilizer in people's consumption. I don't know, but
Okay.
nitrogen fertilizer.
All right, let's see here. We've got this show, for as long as we've been together, this show's going fast, and we've been together an hour and 40 minutes. And usually by now, I am moving around because I'm in pain. Not tonight. I'm fascinated. I am so happy with you as my guest. Uh, Global fossil fuel subsidies, 2018 to 2020. It's another flushable moment, but I'm not going to flush twice.
This
We
was a
only flush once.
high point in the media, right? This is from Deutsches Welle. That is, and I probably pronounce it wrong, but this is the German equivalent of the BBC, where I come from. This is
Mm-hmm.
major media, and they had a headline which said that we are not increasing our renewable energy fast enough. But in the article, look, they worked it out right. They work out that just in a few years, the governments have given the fossil fuel industry $18 trillion.
Jeez.
18
Trillion.
trillion, 2018,
Yeah. Trillion.
2020.
Oof.
So is it surprising that energy is still dominated by fossil fuels? And
No.
it's a killing industry. Fossil fuel industry is a killing industry. It has been for a number of years now.
And Jim is right. Just think of all the research and
Oh my
solutions
God.
the world could do with 18
Oh,
trillion.
right.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
my God. My God. All right, I
Yeah, this
think
is a huge
this
amount
was
of money.
the last one. Oh my gosh. I really enjoyed the slides. Let's see what is everybody talking about. We have a couple of more questions. I don't want to go too far back. Scott would like to know, aren't we functionally extinct just based on the level of excess heat energy present in the world's oceans?
Yes, rationally we are. Uh, but we cannot allow that to demotivate ourselves because, as I say, we still don't really know what we could do if humanity got together and united on a single cause. And this is the issue of
Okay.
all time. There's a cause to work on for everyone. Everyone. This is everyone's issue. So, but I agree with you. The heat in the oceans has been sadly neglected. And the scientists are the first to acknowledge that. You see, 93% of heat that has been added to the atmosphere from our greenhouse gas emissions has gone to ocean heat. And it's been sort of assumed that, oh, well, that's very helpful. Well, no, it's not, because it's ruining the oceans. It's causing massive zones of deoxygenation.
Yeah.
And we rely totally on the oceans, obviously, more than any
Oh,
other
we
ecosystem.
do.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. Let's see. Jackie again. Why should we try to change course when an earlier collapse may actually save more life on the planet, i.e., a sooner rather than later scenario? Which has the most probability of saving more life? Ooh, Jackie. Ooh, that's a toughie.
That is a that is a that is a reasonable question and, pointing out a reasonable point. But I'll say this: we're mammals. That's what we are. We're mammals. If you look at mammals, there's one thing that characterizes them. They're pretty successful. They never ever give up on life. be it a gazelle that's being chased down by a lion, being it a little mouse that is being oppressed and eaten by a cat. Nothing in the mammalian world gives up on life. And so that's my answer to that one. Right? We need to be good mammals.
Good mammals. Okay. Or be a mammal. Let's see. All right. Now, Dr. Jeremy Jimenez, who's going to be our guest on Friday night, he's asking, what do you think are justified uses of fossil fuels, if any?
Zero. The IPCC actually made it very clear. It's 2018 1.5 degrees C report. By 2050, we have to be at zero fossil fuels. Everybody's now talking about net zero, and that's very dangerous talk, because net zero is not defined, which is very convenient for the fossil fuel corporations. But there's no net zero without zero fossil fuels.
Okay.
Atmospheric CO2 being in 4 million years, and it's probably the highest in 15 million years, by the way. No room for more fossil fuels. None.
No room for more fossils. We could take that a few ways. Sometimes I feel like a fossil myself. Depends on the day. All right, let's see. This has been really excellent. I have to tell you, I am so appreciative. And you know what, Dr. Carter, you are so easy, and you are such a pleasure. Such a pleasure. If you don't mind,
it's always a privilege, Sandy, being given the opportunity to, do what I think I should be doing, which is, getting the word out there.
Yes.
So I thank you. It's a great privilege for me.
It's a great privilege for me to have you. Ever since I read the book, and I've known for 4 years I should have you on the show. But you know what? This was the time.
Oh, you read the Unprecedented book, Sandy,
absolutely!
Did you?
I have it right there on my shelf. I did a narration of it, and I put it on. YouTube in the community section. I read the chapter on activism back when you did that, and Julie knew that. But yeah, I did that, and then I'm terrible procrastinator. But I have another question from Jim. Jim does the climate emergency protest in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, every Friday. He's done it for 300? How many? I don't know how many he's done. Hundreds, whatever, and he has the question, will you be attending COP27 with Paul Beckwith? Number 2, what will it take, in your opinion, for these leaders
That's Jim McHenry. Jim, I'm really pleased to meet you. I really like your, I think it's your tweets, right?
Yeah,
You've always got
Jim doesn't tweet. He's on Facebook.
I don't know whether I'm going to be going to COP27. It's in Egypt. That seems to be a heck of a long way away.
Uh-huh.
And the COPs are, they're really managed. I'd like to think, that I could get the emergency out there, and I could get back that our governments are killing us, and I'd like to help get the IPCC chair's opinion out. Because obviously he's going to be saying the same thing. Dr. Lee, by the way, said that emissions had to go into decline rapidly and immediately in the Madrid conference that I went to. Right, so last year was the second time he said that, and the second time the media has not quoted him.
Wow. Well, guys, I think we could go on for so much longer, but it has been almost 2 hours. Let's see. All right, I will bring up one that might. What do you think? I hope someone brings up overshoot as a subject of discussion. Do you have any opinion on ecological overshoot?
We warned about overshoot in 1972, right? Limits to growth. That amazing computerized study that they did, absolutely amazing at MIT. They used the best in IT computers. And they said we were heading for overshoot. And then, of course, we had the excellent work on the very useful on the ecological footprint. So we've been overshooting the planet for a long time. But the other overshoot, which is thoroughly a bad idea, is that we can overshoot our targets, right? And then get our CO2 back down and get our global heating back down. No, that's not the way to look at climate science at all. It has to go down now. There's no alternative. So overshoot is bad idea.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you so very much for coming. My little bit of homework, my little bit of, like and subscribe. We got to do that. Like and subscribe. We are non-monetized. We will never monetize this channel through Google. So you all know the drill. Thank you, Peter. I am thrilled that you were with us. I hope you come back again. Everybody is saying thank you. Barrett, thank you for coming. Thank you, everyone. Reflect the Sun and Molly and Matt Hunter. You know I love you, Matt. And Matt's from New Zealand. And we really love each other here, Peter. In case you haven't noticed, this is a very close chat of people that are just very loving. And this is the environment that I like.
That is it. It's certainly not too late to get together with good people and
nope.
And love people. No. So thank you very much. And thank you,
You're
everybody.
Very welcome. You can stick around if you want. I'm going to do the ending little thing. I may show that little video again because it was cute. So, guys, thank you again. And I am going to show the intro video because it was really short and cute and sweet. And then my usual closing credits, Peter. Hang around if you'd like, and we can do our post-mortem or whatever you want to call it. And here we go. All right.
Is there intelligent life in the universe? How about Earth? Farms, villages, towns and cities, our art and culture, stories and music, science and engineering, education, society. Everything we know and love today developed on a stable, resilient planet. It wasn't too hot, not too cold. Scientific evidence shows that global average temperatures changed no more than plus minus 1 degree Celsius. But something stirred here 60 years ago and still grows exponentially. We now use an area the size of South America for our crops and the size of Africa for our livestock. We've produced enough concrete to cover the Earth and enough plastic to cling film it. International research shows the atmosphere, the oceans, and the lands are changing at alarming rates. Human-induced climate change is no longer a theory. Arctic sea ice is collapsing rapidly. Coral reefs are dying. Fish stocks that feed 3 billion people are at capacity. Choking clouds of pollution stretch across continents. Global average temperature is now 1.1 degrees Celsius. We are smashing through planetary boundaries. Climate, deforestation, fertilizer use, biodiversity. We are approaching irreversible tipping points in the Amazon, the Arctic, and Antarctica. We are causing the 6th mass extinction. So, is there intelligent life on Earth?
This report finds, unless there are immediate, rapid, and large-scale reductions in greenhouse gas emissions, limiting warming to 1.5 degrees C or even 2 degrees C will be beyond reach.